Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever really stopped to think about how a sunflower can somehow follow the sun across the sky? Or how you yank your hand away from a hot stove before your brain even registers the pain? Well, it all comes down to something called control and coordination. And today, we're going to explore the absolutely incredible systems that all living things, from you and me to the plants in our backyard, use to react and respond to the world. Let's jump right in. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the basics of what it even means to respond to the world. Then we'll dive deep into the animal's high-speed network and its amazing command center. After that, we're going to switch gears and see how plants do things completely differently before wrapping it all up to see how these two very different strategies actually work toward the exact same goal: survival.
All right, first up, responding to the world. At its core, every single living organism has to solve the same problem. How do you react to your environment so you can stay alive? And the answer to that is in this universal language of stimuli and response.
Of course you have, right? It's something we've all done. That split-second, totally automatic reaction is just a perfect example of one of these control systems going to work. But what's really going on there? What is it that triggers such an incredibly fast and precise action?
Well, that trigger has a name. Scientists call it a stimulus, and really, it's just any change in the environment that an organism can pick up on. It could be the heat from that hot pan, sure, but it could also be the bright light that makes you squint, or even something as subtle as the pull of gravity telling a plant's roots which way to grow.
And the response, pulling your hand away, it's not just some random jerky movement. No way. It's a beautifully coordinated action. Your skin, your nerves, your spinal cord, your muscles, they all have to work together perfectly, and that is coordination. It's the secret sauce that makes a response actually work.
So how does that coordination actually happen, especially in complex beings like animals? Well, they've developed this incredibly sophisticated, high-speed network to manage all this information. And that brings us to the two big players, the nervous and endocrine systems. The best way to think about it is like this. The nervous system is kind of like the body's own private internet. It uses lightning-fast electrical signals to shoot messages around for immediate action. The endocrine system, though, that's more like the old-school postal service. It sends chemical messengers, which we call hormones, through the bloodstream. It's a lot slower, but it's perfect for more long-term things, like growth or managing your mood.
Okay, so let's break down that internet a little more. It all starts with receptors. Those are in your eyes, your ears, your skin, and they detect the stimulus. They then shoot a message along what are called sensory nerves. That message gets processed, and then a command gets sent back out along motor nerves to the effectors. And the effectors are just the muscles and glands that actually do the work. It's this really clean, logical path from uh-oh to action.
And what's carrying all these messages? The humble neuron. This little guy is the data cable of your biological internet. Information comes in through its dendrites, it gets turned into an electrical pulse that zips down the axon, and then it's passed on to the next neuron using chemicals across a tiny little gap called a synapse. And there are billions, literally billions of these forming the network that runs your entire body. Now, all those neurons have to connect to a central hub, a main processor, right? So now, let's take a little tour of the command center itself, the brain and the spinal cord. Together, they make up the central nervous system.
The brain is just amazing in how specialized it is. You can think of the forebrain as the CEO. It handles all the big picture stuff, complex thoughts, memories, emotions, all the voluntary actions. Then you've got the midbrain, which is kind of like a middle manager, controlling all those involuntary reflexes. And finally, the hindbrain. That's the life support system. It's got different parts that are constantly fine-tuning your balance, your breathing, your heartbeat, all without you ever having to think about it.
And the brain's partner in crime is, of course, the spinal cord, and it has this really cool dual role. First, it's the main information superhighway, just relaying messages back and forth between the brain and the rest of the body. But, and this is the cool part, for really urgent stuff, it can act as its own little command center, managing reflexes all by itself to save precious, life-saving milliseconds.
Okay, so that's the animal system in a nutshell. Super fast, centralized, and electrical. But plants can't exactly run away from danger or get up and walk toward the sunlight. So how do they manage? Well, let's pivot to their completely different strategy, a silent world of chemical communication.
So instead of having nerves, plants use these chemical messengers called phytohormones.
And if the animal nervous system is high-speed internet, you should think of plant hormones as slow-release chemical memos that are sent all throughout the plant. They don't cause instant reactions, but they are masters at guiding a plant's entire life, from how it grows to when it flowers to when it drops its leaves for the winter.
Let's meet the key players here. You've got auxins and gibberellins. Those are the growth promoters, making the plant get taller and bushier. Cytokinins are all about cell division, helping to form fruits and seeds. Then you have abscisic acid, which is basically the opposite. It hits the brakes and slows down growth. And finally, ethylene. That's the ripener. It's the hormone that turns a hard, green tomato into a soft red one. Each one has a very specific job to do.
Okay, so we've got these two very different systems on the table. Now let's see them in action. How do these control mechanisms actually look when they translate into movement and response out in the real world?
So let's go back to that hot pan scenario, the reflex arc. Step 1, your skin receptors scream, "Danger, too hot!" Step 2, a sensory nerve zaps that signal straight to the spinal cord. Now this is the crucial part, step 3. The spinal cord doesn't waste time asking the brain for permission. Nope, it makes an executive decision right then and there and sends a command back. Step 4, that command travels down a motor nerve to, finally, step 5, your arm muscle contracts and you pull your hand to safety. It's a beautiful, elegant, life-saving shortcut. Plant movements are just as cool, but they come in two main flavors. First, you have tropic movements. These are slow, they're directional, and they're based on growth. Think of a plant slowly bending towards a window over a few days. Then you have nastic movements. These are totally different. They're fast, they're not directional, and they have nothing to do with growth. The classic example here is the touch-me-not plant, which can fold up its leaves in an instant when you touch it. That's all thanks to a quick change in water pressure inside its cells.
And if we look closer at those slow, growth-based movements, we see some clear patterns. Phototropism is just a response to light. It's why shoots grow up, towards the sun. Geotropism is a response to gravity. It's why roots always grow down. Hydrotropism is the plant's search for water, and chemotropism is a response to chemicals, like when a pollen tube grows toward an ovule so fertilization can happen. It's how plants smartly position themselves to get what they need.
So what have we seen? We've got the animal's high-speed electrical network and the plant's slow, deliberate chemical web. And that brings us to the grand finale here. Two totally different solutions, both aimed at the exact same thing, survival. This last table really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Animals use a mix of electrical and chemical signals that are super fast and run by a complex, centralized brain. Plants, on the other hand, rely on a purely chemical system that's much slower and totally decentralized. And the really important thing to realize isn't about which one is better. It's about why each system is so perfectly suited to its user.
I mean, they're both just masterpieces of evolution. The fast, mobile life of an animal demands an instant response system. It just has to. But the stationary life of a plant is perfectly served by a slow, growth-based system. They are two totally different but equally brilliant solutions to the same fundamental challenge of staying alive.
And in the end, it all comes back to this one simple, powerful idea. Whether it's happening through nerves or hormones, whether it's a lightning-fast reflex or a slow bend towards the light, the success of life really depends on coordination. That ability for different parts to work together to produce the right response at just the right time.
It really makes you wonder, right? Coordination is absolutely everywhere, from a single cell all the way up to a whole ecosystem. So if these are the incredible systems that govern animals and plants, what other invisible control networks might be out there, shaping our world in ways we're only just beginning to figure out? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.